Did I indeed hear the butcher? I sure did. There he is. Fresh meat! Oh my god! What did I just do to him? Yo guys, what's going on? I am Josh, and I'm here to show you my Necromancer Bone Spear build. I've had a lot of requests for this during my live streams of Diablo 4, and while I generally don't make a whole lot of build guides in any game, I figured I would share this with people because a lot of people tell me how much they feel like Necromancer is just so underpowered. And I'm a big fan of Necromancers in Diablo and a lot of other games that have Necromancy, and so I figured I would share with you what I have come up with so far for a build that's been proven to be highly effective for me so far. I've relied on this for many levels, and it's gotten me very, very far with very minimal effort so far. So I'm going to give you a quick rundown on all the aspects that are key to this build, as well as certain stats, and then I'm going to show you how the build works and why it works. So let's open up with, this is the most important part of the build right here. You need the umbral aspect on, I think it only works with rings. I might be wrong about that, but I put it on a ring because that's all I had the option for at the time. So as you can see, the aspect is restore essence, or your primary resource as it says, when you crowd control an enemy. Now, this isn't even the max roll, but I'm going to show you how effective even just the number 3 is with this when I get going. You definitely need this as part of this build. It is the key part of how it works. The reason why you need this so much is because, as you can see by looking at my ability bar, I don't even have a basic attack. I don't have any basic skill listed there. I have Corpse Tendrils, Corpse Explosion, Bone Prison, Blood Mist, Bone Storm, and Bone Spear. There is no basic attack here. So, you definitely need the essence to do your damage, so you need to have this as part of it. The next important thing that you need to have going on is Bone Spear. I can't remember the name of the aspect here, but Bone Spear's primary attack makes enemies hit beyond the first vulnerable for a few seconds, and then does additional bonus damage to vulnerable enemies. This is key because it's going to be how you lay down most of your damage. Now, the stats you want alongside this are critical strike damage, critical strike chance, and then just vulnerable damage. If you stack those 3 things, you're going to just absolutely nuke enemies with very minimal throws of the Bone Spear just on those 3 stats alone. So the more Bone Spears you can throw, the more everything just kind of dies, right? And I do specifically advise two-handed swords because they offer the most critical strike damage that's built into the sword innately, whereas two-handed scythes will give you life on kill. I just don't like that when it comes to dealing damage, obviously. You lose a lot of potential damage there, and when you have other things built into your ability to help sustain you, then you don't need to worry about that life on kill so much. So I choose this. Now, I'm going to show you the rest of my stuff here. A lot of this isn't really necessary to make this work, but it is something that can help you out with stats as well as just additional damage on Bone Spears. Like the Deathless Visage here, you can see that it does leave behind echoes that travel as the Bone Spear gets thrown, and they deal additional damage. I have Bone Storm giving me a barrier here because Bone Storm just, you have to get up close to use it, and so why not give yourself a little bit of extra survivability when you're in there doing your thing. Here I have Corpse Tendrils giving me critical strike chance and critical strike damage. You need to have this on there because you're going to be using Corpse Tendrils on cooldown pretty much anyway, so you may as well have that on there for the additional damage. And then here I have a barrier every time I damage an elite. It lasts for 10 seconds, and generally speaking with this build, 10 seconds is more than enough to just do your thing. So that's something that just kind of gives you a lot of survivability, all that extra, health essentially. And then here, Penitent Greaves. This is very good to have because it does leave behind a trail of frost that chills enemies, which is a form of crowd control. So between Penitent Greaves and Corpse Tendrils, you get plenty of opportunity to regain your essence through the umbral aspect here. Now, there is another option here if you do not have these boots. You can use the Deathless Scream Scythe, or is it Deathless Whisper? I can't remember. Either way, it's a unique scythe that transforms darkness abilities to chill. So you can change a Corpse Explosion in the abilities to make it so instead of doing an explosion, it does a darkness miasma, And when you have it leveled up that way, or when you have the abilities set up that way, it'll work with the Deathless Scythe to make it so it becomes chill. So every time you detonate a corpse with Corpse Explosion, you can regain essence by anyone that gets caught in it. Very effective. That's actually what I did at first, right up until I found these boots. So I'm going to give you a quick look at my abilities and my Paragon tree with what I have going on right now. You can pause the video at any time that you want to see if you would like to, look at this. And keep in mind that any numbers that are blue, they are, additional stats given by my current gear setup that I have going on. So keep that in mind. Something else that is very key to have as well is if you do struggle to maintain your essence with what you have going on so far, make sure that you put Grim Harvest on, because every time you detonate a corpse with Corpse Explosion, you gain 6 essence from that as well, which is always good to have. So keep that in mind. Now let me tell you why I have the abilities that I have, and then I'll show you how this build works. Corpse Tendrils, that's one of your biggest crowd control things. You'll basically be using this on cooldown every opportunity you get, because that's going to give you a ton of essence in return. Corpse Explosion, the same idea, only generally use this. You don't want to use this for damage. It's very low damage with this build, but it does give you additional essence if you need it. Bone Prison, I specifically leveled up. Again, another way to get essence if you really are in a spot where you're just very low on it. But also it's good for trapping enemies that you just want to stay away from for whatever reason. If they hit really hard, like a boss or something, then that'll help you kind of isolate them. But the big thing is the modifier, or both modifiers. If an enemy is trapped by Bone Prison, you gain 15 essence plus an additional 5 per enemy trapped. If you combo that with Corpse Tendrils, you're going to gain a ton of essence. You'll basically go from 0 to full just with those two abilities by themselves if you have a big enough group. Very effective. And then of course, Fortify for 5% of base life for each enemy trapped in the Bone Prison. So when you trap a bunch of enemies in the Bone Prison, you get tankier for it. That's a win-win. And then this Blood Mist, I barely ever use this. This is what I call my oh shit button. I use this if I'm in a position where I'm trapped by a bunch of elites or something and I'm about to die. This will give you 3 seconds of pure immunity, and you can squeak your way on by and then try to run away, or give yourself just a few seconds to kind of, regain your cooldowns and stuff like that. This will help you out with survivability. That's my panic button. Here we have Bone Storm. I don't care about the damage that Bone Storm does. It can be, useful against smaller enemies, but the big thing about this is the damage reduction while it's active, and then the critical strike chance that it gives you while it's active. That's going to help you lay down damage in a big, big way. And then of course Bone Spear itself, where you just throw these bad boys around and you just nuke everything with it. It's so effective. Now, the big thing that does help out with the damage here, again, is critical strike chance. You can see all my stats here. I'll scroll this. If you want to see some specific values with this build, go ahead and just make a quick pause. But as you can see, I have focused a lot on critical strike chance, critical strike damage with bone, and then vulnerable damage. The vulnerable damage could be a lot better, but I sacrificed a little bit for just critical strike damage and with bone. Now, I have a base value of critical strike chance at 21.8, and because of the gloves here, I gained 15% extra on top of that, so that makes it 36.8. And then when I have Bone Storm active, that makes it 56.8. At level 71, 56.8, that's a pretty good critical strike chance. That means 1 out of every 2 Bone Spears is, statistically going to critical strike, which means that the damage that I lay down, because it's a bone ability, and the critical strike damage that's flat here is going to be massive. Plus I make them vulnerable, which only adds to it. Now let me go ahead and show you how effective this build is by instilling my trust in it. The goal with this is you want to aim for the weakest enemy possible first. Now the reason why that is because when you kill an enemy as a Necromancer, you make a corpse. And that corpse is all you need to make this work. So let me go ahead, burn all that. We're going to go find an enemy. We're going to make a corpse, and then we're going to just build up our essence. Watch this. Look at that. Look at that. I'm not ready yet. I just one-shot that elites. As you can see, the critical strike damage is just absolutely massive. That was a 443,000 spike right there. You're going to see a lot of numbers everywhere from like 200,000 all the way up to 800,000 with this build based on the range of enemies and all that. It's so incredibly effective, and the essence rebuild is also incredibly effective. In fact, let me drop my essence down again. Let me run into a group of enemies, and I'm going to show you what the chill effect can do as well. Watch how quickly the essence goes up here because of the chill. Look at that. Isn't that beautiful? Look at that. And then we could just Bone Storm, throw in some spears, and everything is just dying. You see that because I hit the elite, I get the barrier. And also keep in mind as well that when you use, because of the way I have corpse tendrils built up, I have it set so I have something that gives me, what is it? Where is it? Corpse tendrils basically will give me, oh yeah, it's a modifier. I have it set so corpse tendrils, I was looking at the wrong thing. Corpse tendrils will give me 30% chance to drop a blood orb, which means that every time you use it, you're going to create a few blood orbs on a group of enemies, and they're just going to heal you. So the sustainability on this right now is very good as well. In fact, let me do a quick cut. I'm going to show you what it can do to end dungeon bosses. All right, so here we are with the Seething Hive Master. What I'm going to do is I'm going to activate Bone Storm and then throw just one Bone Spear in hopes that it makes a corpse. And then, if we can get that, great. If not, then we're just going to see how many Bone Spears it does take to finish him off. Let's go ahead and get started. All right, there's our corpse. He's already over half dead with just one Bone Spear there. As you can see, that was one Bone Spear. Let's do this. All right, not the greatest critical hit there, but still. Only 3 Bone Spears. Usually it just takes 2. A little bit of bad RNG there, but you get the point still. Just 3 Bone Spears to take this guy out. Pretty great. Pretty great. And so you can overall see how effective this build is with just a quick rundown of it. I do hope that you, get a little bit of help out of this video. I know that it is very gear specific, but if you can dedicate a little bit of time to grinding out things like Hell Tides, then you'll be able to find a lot of the same gear that I have, because that's exactly how I got it, just by going and doing the Hell Tides as they happen. I think it took a total of 6 Hell Tides to get the setup that I have, with all the uniques that I have going on and the aspects. So realistically, not so bad compared to a lot of how a lot of other builds seem to work as well. Now, the reason why I did my build this way is because I just enjoy Bone Spear. I've generally defaulted towards that type of build with Necromancers in general, outside of, just basic minion builds. So with this build overall, again, you do need to make sure that you have Umbral, and then give yourself a couple options for crowd control. You definitely want Corpse Tendrils, very easy to get and highly effective with this build. And then, of course, you want to try to make sure that you include, the Corpse Tendril aspect here, and then try to include chill in some kind, whether it's the Penitent Greaves or through the Scythe. It's either Deathless Scream or Deathless Whisper, I can't remember, but I used it for a while and it was pretty effective there too. You just have to, what you want to do there is you use Corpse Tendril on a corpse, and then immediately after, use Corpse Explosion, so every enemy that gets pulled in there gets slowed, stunned, and chilled, which will help you out gaining so much essence so very fast. And that's pretty much it. That's the rundown of this build. You saw what it could do to the bosses of the dungeons at the very beginning of the video. You saw what it did to the Butcher in World Tier 4. And you've seen what it can do to a big group of elites with the survivability that this has, as well as all the damage that it does. This build is just great so far. Now, I'm not sure how well it's going to do as we get into the level 80 and 90 and upwards towards 100 region, but as of right now, it is insanely effective, and I plan on trying it out in the future as well. We'll see how it goes. Of course, at that time as well, I'm sure the build will be more perfected, so maybe I'll make another video if you guys are interested in seeing the final result at that time. Anyways, thank you guys for watching this video. I hope to see you during the live streams of Diablo 4, and if not, then, I hope that, this video helped you out anyway. Until next time, be excellent to each other. Later, folks.